Friends, Romans, countrymen, anybody who can't hear me, raise your hand. Okay. Let me explain what a warrant officer is, because it's not that common. We're halfway between enlisted men and real live officers, RLOs, which would be the lieutenants and captains. What you heard before was the RLOs. We are a specialist. Our warrant comes from the Department of the Army, not Congress like the RLOs get there from. Our job is to be a specialist in what we do and be very good at it. Generally, everybody leaves us alone because they know we don't really care what they think. What you have in front of you is a picture of a 20-year-old bulletproof helicopter pilot. The Ray-Bans were my favorite thing to wear. I even wore those when I was coming out of the shower. Most of my tour was in the Central Highlands. The arrow there points to the area that we worked. Our primary job was reconnaissance. We gathered intel on things that the 4th Infantry Division, which we were attached to, wanted to find out about. So my job was to fly my helicopter at about 20 knots, 20 miles an hour, below the treetop level, because that gave me more cover from AK-47 fire. I would judge trails by usage, date of the usage. I would look at discarded materials, supplies that the enemy was having, and look for pack animals. Generally, the thing that told me the most about the size of the units was the sanitation habits of the North Vietnamese Army was minimal. So if I flew over the area, in fact, I did that one time. I was flying along about 60 knots, right at treetop level, and the aroma hit me, and I radioed my wingman, and I said, "Did you smell that?" And he said, "Yep." So we turned around, kind of hovered off to the side. We called in some, we were supported by the Air Force and F-4 Phantoms. So when they got on station, which took about 5 minutes, wingman and I dropped grenades at both ends of that, and they bombed that area. I think we made a pretty good score on that one. Anyway, the area we worked was the tri-border area, which, if I can get this, oh, there we go.
Aim towards the back. Back of the room, Bill. Oh, sorry. Disregard. The voice in the darkness.
By the way, it's a little bit dark in here, but if you can't hear me, raise your hand and I'll try and speak up a little bit. Okay. So we worked in the tri-border area, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. As you saw on earlier maps, the Ho Chi Minh Trail came right along here. So we had quite a bit of activity there all the time. That was our emblem patch. We were an air cab unit. Our tactics were pretty simple. We went out in teams. We had 2 Loaches, 2 gunships, and then our CNC, which relayed the information back to the 4th Infantry Intelligence. Now, there's a picture that gives you an idea of the size of my helicopter. I had a minigun, which is a 7-barrel machine gun. We had smoke grenades, incendiary grenades, and regular grenades. I flew on the left-hand side. I had an observer that sat here, and he carried the weapon of his choice. I have a non-regulation T-shirt on there. You can't read it, but My sister, who was going to school in Boulder at the time, asked me if she could do anything for me. I said, sure, send me some T-shirts. She says, okay, do you want a particular color? And I said, yeah. She said, do you want anything on them? I said, yeah. So on this one, she sent me 4 of them. And before I tell you what that says, I'll tell you that the person making the T-shirts in Boulder admonished her that she could not wear those in the Boulder area. So anyway, this is one of the milder ones. It says the cab, which I was in, and the back says sucks, S-U-X. Anyway, what I'd like to do is tell you a couple of stories. The first one is about work and what I did to earn the title of badass. The second one is what I did for fun. So the first one, when we went out, we really didn't know what we were going to do. The areas would be given to us. My job was to go down, like I said, gather intel. And then our mission could change momentarily. We got a call one day, and a mountaintop artillery unit, the fire base, was being overrun by NVA. We were dispatched to help defend the area. My job as the lead scout pilot was to go in and determine where the friendlies were and where the enemy was. So we approached the area, which was a mountaintop, and my standard approach was like a screaming banshee right through the ground to minimize fire. And I could see where the area of the fire base was cleared out. So I started halfway around, and I could hear the AK-47 fire, and they shot my engine out. I was in a what we call triple canopy jungle, which 150-foot high trees. I was out of power. I looked to the right down the mountain. It wasn't steep enough for me to negotiate that, so I turned back to the fire base, and those particular helicopters, if you look, you can't see very well, but the fuel cells are right underneath the. If you hit the trees with any forward momentum, it would rip over the fuel cells and you'd catch fire. And the aluminum magnesium frame was very effervescent. It would light up, about like a sparkler would be a good comparison. So rather than do that, I zeroed out my airspeed, fell back into the trees. I don't remember anything until about 45 minutes later. The guys from the fire base came down, pulled me from the aircraft, so obviously I didn't catch fire. They took me up into the fire base, and there was a big log laying across the middle of it. And the next thing I remember is somebody saying, I don't think this is going to make it either. He's got too much blood on him. I don't think we can do anything for him. And I opened my eyes, and he was talking about me. As I was laying there trying to get my bearings, because I didn't know where I was, what was going on, I heard the AK-47 fire from the ground. That was the first time I heard AK-47 fire from the ground. It scared the poo-dud out of me. It just was something I felt pinned down. I felt, that I couldn't move. It was an eye-opening experience. I laid there for about 2 minutes, and the CNC ship came down, landed about 10 feet from me. The guys from the fire base, I was kind of wobbly still. Guys helped me and threw me in the back of the aircraft. They flew me to a hospital, and I spent a week there. So that's what I did during my work day. other thing that we used to do was take advantage of anything that we could. Being warrant officers, like I said, our attitude was not completely military-like, but it was one of, well, what can I get away with? We got called in, we had a two-star general that's come into a fire base that was on flat ground. Our job was to go in and sweep the fire base, and when he arrived, we would escort him in. So as I was sweeping the area around the fire base, there was a little opening. I looked down, and there was a pig on the ground. Now, our regular menu was canned roast beef, powdered milk, and powdered eggs. So having fresh meat was a kind of a treat. So I radioed the CNC ship, told him what I was going to do. He says, can't do that. That's okay. So my ringman came in because he knew what I was going to do, and he started circling right on top. It was the LZ was probably about the size of the auditorium. And I told my observer to lay the pig down, and he missed it with his first 5 shots. So I just took my minigun there, and the pig immediately fell. And I was such a good shot, I only got 2 bullets that went right up his nostrils. So the meat was pretty safe. We landed. I sent my observer over there to grab him and haul him in the aircraft. In the meantime, I was listening. The general was still not on his way. And for those of you who don't know, in the military, if you bang something up or destroy it, not in combat, you get to pay for it. So I was very careful not to disrupt anything or try and damage the equipment that I had. Anyway, my observer went over there, he grabbed the pig, and he shook his head, gave me the command sign. Well, one thing you don't do with a helicopter is you leave it running and get out of it. So I frictioned everything down, which stabilized the controls. I jumped out, unplugged my radio, went over there, and I'll tell you, dragging 400 pounds through jungle is something that I had not trained for. They didn't give me anything like that to be prepared for it, but we dragged it over. And then trying to get it up, and right after something dies, it's very limber and shaky. So it's kind of like putting Jell-O inside of a cup. But in the back, we have a magazine that carries about 3,000 rounds to feed the minigun. So you have to get up over that. And the only way we could get that pig in the helicopter, he had his head hanging out one side and his feet hanging out the back side. So jump back in, plug back in, CNC said, so General is on final, you better get over there. I thought, my career is over. We only had 100-foot trees there, so pulled a little bit over max power to get the pig out, and I swung around. I could see where he was coming in, so I came up to escort him in. And I thought, God, I hope he doesn't look. Sure enough, he did. He looked over, and it was one of the few disbelief look I have seen on a general officer. Then he turned around, and he just shook his head. So that's what we did for fun. You know what the other part is? I have a couple more slides here. I'll make some comments on those if I have time. That's what we look like going to work. And you can see the terrain there. We had organic infantry in our CAV unit, meaning that those were our guys that lived with us, ate with us. And I kind of figured it was my job to keep those guys where they were. You're probably wondering why they're there. Well, if they were back at the base, the first sergeant had a whole list of activities for these guys. And they would rather come out here, sleep, smoke cigarettes, chew tobacco. Okay?